What's happening, everybody? Jay Shock Blast here, and oh my god, I just saw Captain America Civil War, and what can I say except amazing? Holy cow, it's everything I hoped it would be and more, and I'm just beyond stoked for the movie that I just saw. And, there's a couple little things that, we'll need to discuss. But in the grand scheme of things, this is a 10 out of 10 movie, a must-see, and the pinnacle of comic book movies. It is everything that is great about comic book movies. And it's such a contrast from Zack Snyder's Murderverse that was Batman vs. Superman: Dawn of Justice. It's night and day, the difference, and I really feel like Zack Snyder should be forced to sit and watch this movie over and over and over and over again, because maybe he'll learn something and the Justice League franchise won't be ruined before it even starts. But enough about the garbage ski. Let's go ahead and talk about a movie that is so deserving of a 10 out of 10 that, like, I hate it. Like, I feel like I keep throwing out these high scores, but this earns it, and it's going to be so hard for any other comic book movie to top what they did with Civil War. And I think the first thing I need to warn everybody, obviously spoilers if you have not seen the movie yet. I highly recommend that you just save this video for another time, because I'm going to be talking about the story, and there will be spoilers, and you've been warned. And it's in the title. You're warned, okay? So, I just hit my mic, sorry. What I love about this movie is the character. Like, the Russos, like, absolutely know how to tell a story. And, granted, it's hard to compare this to some of the other franchises out there, because we're getting ready to start wave 3 of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and the reason why this movie is able to be so successful is because they've already established the lore. You already have, this is a third Captain America standalone movie. You've had 3 standalone Iron Man movies. You've had an Ant-Man movie. You've had the 2 Avenger movies. So you've had a Thor movie, or 2 actually. So I mean, you've had a lot of opportunity to nurture these characters, to bring them along. Everybody understands who they are, and now they're all kind of put together. This is everything that Age of Ultron should have been, and there's really very few parts of the story that really dwell off the path of what happens in general in Marvel. So obviously this is nothing like the original Civil War, and it certainly doesn't end the way that Civil War ended. So I think one of the rumors that a lot of people talked about in the lead up to this was that there were going to be 2 funerals, and that was actually not the case. There was only one funeral, and it was the obvious one. It was for Agent Peggy Carter. So that is also where Sharon Carter kind of comes out, and she's like, oh, yep, that's my aunt. So really raises some eyebrows, if you will. But, I'm going to go ahead and skip to the end. It doesn't end with Captain America dying, which is pretty great as far as I'm concerned, because I was a little worried about that. We've already got Quicksilver dead and in need of a way to revive him. And we don't really have that quite yet. But let's talk about really the gist of it. I mean, obviously, as you can see in the trailers, we've got the Sokovia Accord, and the purpose of the Sokovia Accord is to rein in these guys and basically say that if you're acting on your own, you're a vigilante, you will be arrested, you will be prosecuted, and that is that. So it kind of builds up. Obviously Cap is like, well, hey, what happens when something major happens and we feel like we need to help, and they tell us to sit on the sidelines? The biggest problem that I had with all this, and And in a lot of my videos, I've basically said Iron Man is the bad guy in this. Like, Iron Man is the one that's wrong. And if you're Team Iron Man, you're Team Bad Guy. And it could not have been more true in watching this movie. If you think about it, the whole reason the Sokovia Accord is a thing is because of a lot of the mistakes that Iron Man made along the way. And, you know, the biggest of which is Ultron. So he's got this guilty conscience, and he's basically taking it out on everybody else. And his guilty conscience makes him make brash decisions, which is something that he does quite often. That's very much the Tony Stark way. And this kind of manifests itself throughout the movie. The whole setup is, and the reason why, you know, everybody's after Bucky, aka Winter Soldier, is because at the Sokovia Accord, T'Chaka, the father of T'Challa, the Black Panther, played by Chadwick Boseman, fantastically, one of the stars of the movie, is giving a speech. As part of earlier in the movie, there was an incident where, you know, Brock Rumlow, aka Crossbones, has a team of goons going after some bioweapon, and there's a Avengers team of Captain America, Black Widow, Scarlet Witch, and one other person. I can't think of who it is off the top of my head right. Oh, Falcon. So they're after this group, and Scarlet Witch in the end kind of has a little bit of a freak out moment where, you know, she's got you know, Crossbones stopped, and instead of just, you know, powering him down or allowing them to arrest him, she basically flings him up into a building, and he explodes, killing some Wakandans. So that's how Wakanda plays into this. This didn't happen in Wakanda. It happened in what I think is a fictional city in Nigeria, or I think it was like somewhere in Africa. And so basically T'Chaka is speaking when a bomb goes off, and basically that's how he dies. Now in the comics, T'Chaka is assassinated, but that was more by Claw. So you know, a little bit dwelling off the path, but, you know, it is what it is. So everybody thinks that Bucky did it, and I'll get into that more in a bit. So everybody's after Bucky. You know, Cap tracks him down. Bucky's memory is still wishy-washy. He doesn't quite remember him. But not only does Cap track him down, but T'Challa, now as the Black Panther, tracks him down. There's, you know, it was a great scene where they're after each other, and they all get arrested in the end, and because War Machine pops up and Iron Man pops up. So basically they all get arrested, and, you know, that's that. That's when we are introduced to Daniel Bruhl as Zemo. They don't say which Zemo it is. You know, Baron Zemo obviously is a big-time player in the Masters of Evil. And, you know, he essentially is after this big Winter Soldier project. I didn't really quite get a good grasp of what exactly or why exactly he was after it, because once he found it, like, you know, it really didn't do a whole heck of a lot. He's obviously part of Hydra. He's actually, no, they kind of made it like he was working on his own. But, you know, essentially, you know, he's got like this face masking software, and that's basically how he starts the divide and conquer of the Avengers. So basically, this happens, and then there's, you know, because he's triggered a reaction from Bucky to, like, go back into Winter Soldier mode. There's a huge breakout. You know, Captain America and Bucky are fighting, and they end up in a river, and this time it's Steve dragging Bucky out of the river. So obviously those two are off the grid. They're trying to be safe, and they're trying to, like, figure out what's going on, and everybody kind of goes into recruitment mode. They know that they need help, so that is how Team Cap ends up becoming, Captain America, Winter Soldier, Falcon, Hawkeye, Scarlet Witch, and Ant-Man. What's really fantastic is, Tom Holland makes his appearance as, Spider-Man and Peter Parker, and he's phenomenal in the movie, and he's in the movie quite a bit. They actually show Marissa Tomei as Aunt May, which she's way too young to be Aunt May. I guess that's a little criticism, but she is Aunt May, and they show Tony Stark, in the living room recruiting him. He knows that it's that he's Spider-Man, and he basically recruits him. Now, one of the cool things is we during all the trailers, we see the airport scene where, during the airport scene, they kind of line up on both sides, and there's even posters for it. And one of the cool things is that Spider-Man is in that line, and they just photoshopped him out of it, basically. So they really kind of kept him under wraps, and I really appreciated that. I like it when things show up, and it's a surprise. Now, there aren't a whole lot more surprises like that, but, that's kind of the gist of everything. The airport scene is just phenomenal. It's non-stop action. It's like 15 minutes long, where it was just this huge battle. We get to see Giant Man, and he's very lumbering and very deliberate and everything like that. It ends with Vision shooting down War Machine on accident, and Cap and Bucky escaping, taking a Quinjet and getting the hell out of Dodge. Essentially, they're trying to track down Zemo. They've kind of figured it out, and they're trying to figure out, how to get to wherever this thing that happened in 1991 was. In the meantime, Iron Man is losing his people. People are turning their backs on him. People are starting to say, hey, you're the one that's wrong here. Black Widow even helped, she helped Cap and Bucky get away, holding off T'Challa. And that was really, really cool, the way that happened. And I knew it would. And you can see the influence that Iron Man had on Peter, on Spider-Man, because, in the comics, he obviously was one of the first and most famous to switch sides over to Team Cap. So as the movie progresses, you kind of see more and more, wow, I should have been Team Cap all along. And I warned you guys, but, you don't listen. You don't listen to Jay. I know what I'm talking about, but you got to kind of learn your own way and do your own thing. And, we all make mistakes. Long story short, it's crazy. Like, we see the Raft. Obviously, with the battle going the way it was, Falcon kind of knew, hey, we're not all getting out of this, so we need to be prepared to take the fall for everybody else. And so basically, they've got the Raft, which is this, maximum security supervillain, base that's built in the middle of the water, in the middle of the ocean, and it goes underwater, so there's like no escape. In the comics, it goes to the negative zone. So, I guess it's a good compromise, because we don't really have a negative zone since they don't have Fantastic Four. But yeah, that's how it works out. Iron Man gets a lot more grief from people. A really funny exchange with Ant-Man. He's like, I don't even know who you are. So, really emotional conversation with Clint, Hawkeye, I should say. That was really cool. And, he kind of, he reasons with Falcon, Sam Wilson, and gets him to kind of give up where they were going. So it all leads to Russia, and apparently Bucky was not the only Winter Soldier project person, and Zemo is trying to track them down for some reason. Now, I didn't necessarily watch this the proper way. I'll do that tomorrow. So this part was kind of lost on me, exactly what he was trying to do. We do get the idea that he is Sokovian, and his family died during the Sokovia attacks by Ultron. So there's a little bit of vengeance involved here. He's basically trying to tear apart the Avengers and make them suffer. But I just really don't know how that Winter Soldier project plays into it. But one of the things that he did do as part of luring them all to the base, because, Iron Man shows up and he's like, hey man, truce, I'm on your side. I made some bad decisions. And along the way, he had found out that, he pieced together that Bucky did not do this. So ultimately, Zemo shows him that Bucky is responsible for the death of his parents, and that kind of sets Stark off into rage mode, and he's like, I don't really care if it wasn't him. I don't care if he was brainwashed. He killed my mom. You're done. It's kind of a Martha moment, except the other way around. But it was interesting, and they fought and they battled, and in the end, Cap walks away. And nobody dies, and that's really fantastic. And we kind of shoot to a scene outside of this Russian base in Siberia, and T'Challa had also, when Stark left that base, the Raft, T'Challa kind of followed him, and he has tracked down Zemo, who is about to kill himself. He keeps listening to the voicemail that his wife left him, and he knows what he's done, and he's about to kill himself. But T'Challa stops him, and basically, he's sad for him. He's like, you're a man full of vengeance, and that's not the path I want to live, So it was really cool to kind of, you see the Black Panther character really develop on screen, so that by the time we get a Chadwick Boseman Black Panther movie, you don't really have to do an origin story, because we already know he's Black Panther, his father T'Chaka was murdered, and he is in charge of Wakanda. So there you go. I mean, that's a really good synopsis of the movie. It ends with, Tony reading a letter from Steve Rogers, and then it shows, Iron Man blew off Bucky's arm, and it shows, Bucky and Cap in Wakanda getting Bucky's arm repaired, and it just kind of shows, Steve and T'Challa talking and looking out at a Black Panther statue. So, it really sets up that next wave really, really well. I can't rave about this movie enough. There's a lot of humor in it. There's a scene where Steve kisses Agent 13, Sharon Carter, and and Sam and Bucky are sitting in the car, and they just both kind of smile as he's walking back. It was just the comedy that's there. It's not forced, and it feels so good. Spider-Man's one-liners are fantastic. The way he interacts with all these characters is amazing. It's phenomenal. His suit is great. Ant-Man's interactions with everybody is hilarious. Like, that's what movies are supposed to be. They're supposed to be enjoyable. They're not supposed to be so depressing. And I just can't help but compare it to Batman vs. Superman, because it's the complete antithesis of everything that movie was. And, like, there's no senseless murder. There's some people that die, and you get that. But, like, it's not, like, gratuitous violence. It's, things that have a purpose, and they kind of happen off off scene, and they're spoken about but not really seen as much. You know, obviously T'Chaka dying is on screen, but it's not really the same as, you know, the way everybody dies in Batman vs Superman. So I'm having a hard time with this one though, because in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, I would say that I'd probably say that Guardians of the Galaxy was my favorite. And in a lot of ways it still is, but in a lot of ways this kind of is right there. And both movies are 10 out of 10 movies for me. So it's really a high compliment to say I can't tell you that one's better than the other. I mean, honestly, it is probably every bit as good, if not better, than Guardians was. It's clearly the best of the Avenger movies, like by far, not even close. And like Winter Soldier was a little, I wouldn't say depressing, but it was a little darker. This movie, it has its darkness, but it has its purpose. There's so much action. It's pretty much packed with action, and there's just everything makes sense, and it really sets up for the next wave, the next generation. It would have been nice if we maybe, you know, saw a tease of Doctor Strange somewhere, or even Captain Marvel, but we'll take what we can. I do really think it was kind of crazy that William Hurt was playing Thaddeus Ross, who just so happens to have been, happens to be the Red Hulk. Nothing is alluded to that he's going to become Red Hulk, but he's Secretary of State in this, not a general, which, that's interesting, but, you know, negligible. Don Cheadle, War Machine, you know, James Rhodes, him going down makes a lot of sense because in the comics, at one point, War Machine starts to become as much robot as he is pilot of the suit. And they tease some Vision and Scarlet Witch, you know, possible romance stuff. So just there's so much going on. It's so phenomenal. I cannot rave about this movie enough. I would love to know what you guys think if you've seen it. It is out tomorrow, it's out May 6th in North America. So I'm going to go see it officially in the theaters tomorrow, but you know, I couldn't wait. There were too many spoilers out there, so I had to go ahead and get it out of the way and see it by any means necessary. But I'd love to know what you guys think. I hope you guys enjoyed the review, and we'll catch you later. See ya.